Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by FPL_Jian Batra to give you your full Twitter username. YouTuber, tweeter, FPL content creator, and someone that played their wildcard last week. Jian, you're doing pretty well this season. 250k at this stage of the season is pretty good. A successful wildcard last time out as well, which we're going to have a look through before moving in to talking about Gameweek 13 and seeing who you have in mind for any potential transfers. Probably not, given that you've just wildcarded, but really interested to see what your thoughts are on captaincy, especially this week. Let's start things off though by having a look at your team from last week and just running us through your general wildcard.
Yeah, firstly, welcome to all the viewers. Great to be back as per usual. Great to be filming with you. The wildcard was decent, I would say. I'd say my team left a lot of points on the table. Sanchez conceding that penalty late, Madueke blocking that Palmer shot, and then Newcastle failing on Monday. But there was a lot of good things about it, like João Pedro and Saka's haul specifically at 3 o'clock really helped me. And also Jackson's as well in the early kickoff. If I got the captaincy call right, it would have been a very, very solid week overall, but can't complain for the wildcard start. Plus, I've accumulated a decent bit of value.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I didn't really think about that, but I mean, that Palmer, have you worked out how many points that block on the line cost you?
Yeah, I think so. It's like 5 for the goal, and then plus a 2 maybe for bonus, so like 14, plus the Jackson assist, which it would have been to 17 points, and then maybe not losing the clean sheet as well. So like, I don't know, 24?
At most. Oh, it's tough. That really is tough. But I mean, yeah, you're having a good season. Let's just run through the decision making across the whole team, because I'm interested, because we didn't have you on before this, so didn't get to hear your thoughts late on. You went with João Pedro, which I mean, I don't know if that, like, I don't know if he was in every single wildcard team. Like now, yeah, he looks like an obvious pick, but you went there. Jackson as well, so no Cunha. Interestingly, you went with Jackson. Just run us through the entire team from Sanchez forward, and just why you went with individual picks.
Yeah, sure. So triple Chelsea was non-negotiable for me. I think you look at the run for the extended period of time which it lasts, it's just magnificent. And having that triple up in early just allows you consistently to have a very, very good set of fixtures. Sanchez, I think, has got one of the highest ceilings amongst the keepers, given we can see chances, but not too many. So the save volume is definitely there. And he's not too expensive, right? I classify him as a 4.5, even though he is 4.7. So that's that. Ryan Aït-Nouri I had for the attacking threat. I think I'll pretty much play him every game. The positions he's picking up are magnificent and probably better than any other defender. We'll speak about one defender later who I really, really like now and I'm looking to bring in. But aside from him, he's probably the best in terms of that. Gabriel, we don't need to speak about too much, right? Complete lock, big box threat, best set piece team and best defensive team in a brilliant set of fixtures coming up. Then Lewis Hall, I already had him, so like he was cheap. The good fixtures coming up, and like on Monday night, he blanked, but he could have got a return, and he looked good going forward. So very happy to have him. And then Dunk, Aït-Nouri, and Hall worked nicely in a rotation for myself. So I picked Dunk for 13 and 15 specifically. I would have gone Van Heck, but I didn't have any money left in the bank, so that's the boring bit of the defense done. The midfield, a lot of it was pretty easy. I mean, Salah, Palmer locks. Super bullish on Saka, which you'll find out later in this video. Very, very bullish on what Saka could do. Rodgers, I would have preferred Semenyo, but I didn't have the cash in the bank. Plus, I've got so much value accumulated in him there that was easy to hold. In Mbeumo, I had a feeling that he was going to blank away at Everton, and I don't think the conditions were in any way ideal, especially with Brentford's like 44 and him playing wide against a very robust Everton block. But obviously this week we have Leicester at home, and I did not want to be without him for that. So that's why I picked him, and then he'll be moving on, and we'll talk about it in the transfer plans. And then I guess the thing you really want to know was the forwards. I really fancied Isak's prospects against West Ham. Yeah. Obviously, nothing came of it, but like that's just sometimes how it goes. And I think I had to capture that upside on a wildcard. Yeah. João Pedro, for the fact that I have Jackson and I was so adamant on getting him alongside the rest of the premiums, acts as a brilliant facilitator given his price. I really like the fixtures, and Bournemouth specifically. I think if you're playing Bournemouth, you want your attacking assets to be in the center of the pitch as opposed to wide. I think there's a huge disparity between the returns given the way Bournemouth play. So that's why I actually gave him the start ahead of Rodgers pretty late on. Quite a late decision. I think I made it like 4 a.m. on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And then Jackson, Jackson, I think the stylistic suitability of the fixtures is just magnificent for Jackson. Leicester wasn't great, but Villa, very susceptible to pace and power in behind. Spurs as well, Brentford as well. And then you've got Southampton sandwiched in between. So I love that as a pick, and I could not go there. So very happy with how that's turned out. Obviously, Cunha put up a 16 pointer, but it is what it is. He's a good asset, and I knew I was missing out on.
Yeah, I mean the decision wasn't between like Isak and Cunha for you, so I mean you've not really lost out on any points there. And I mean, to be honest, I'd probably pick Jackson and João Pedro ahead of Cunha over the next X game weeks. Yeah. There are loads of good picks. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think in 14, like Everton away is not great. 15, West Ham could make it tough if they're going to play in the same way they did against Newcastle. They have a good game. So he's more of a 16 transfer for me, and I didn't expect Fulham to lose, to be honest.
Yeah, completely agree with all of that. Okay, let's get into your team for the upcoming game week then. And yeah, immediately just a couple of flags there. What are your thoughts on Gabriel and Dunk's chances for this week?
Yeah, so let's just assume they both don't play right. I've got very good cover in Hall off the bench away at Palace, which I like, especially with the attacking prospects. And even Burgess, I don't expect Greaves to come straight back into the side. He's performed very well as of late. I quite like what I see from Ipswich. So if he has to play, then so be it. I'm hoping that both of Gabriel and Dunk play, but hopefully at least one of them does, right?
Yeah.
Dunk's got a great fixture. Gabriel equally has got a very solid fixture. Gabriel's got a big box threat. So I think he'll be fine as well. Arteta usually pushes his players to play. I think Gabriel specifically is one who will want to play anyway, even if he's carrying some form of a knock. So I definitely won't be making a transfer at the back. I'll just be letting it run.
I mean, we saw with Saka as well. I mean, we know with Arteta, don't we? He loves playing these games. I think he gets a lot of enjoyment out of the lack of information that he gives out personally. But yeah, I think according to Arsenal fans, Gabriel just felt a bit tired, and he didn't have any, there was no ice on him when he came off on the bench. He was just laughing around, so I think he's going to be completely fine. Dunk, though, is one I think you've got a bit unlucky there, but do you think he's going to come back into the team 100% when he's fit? I mean, Brighton aren't defending unbelievably well, but they're playing well. They're getting good results. Does he immediately come back into the team over Igor?
Yeah, see, the thing is, Igor's been playing well. My rationale was that in terms of his injury timeline, he'd be slightly higher up than he is currently. I know he did a session, I think, by himself yesterday, which isn't great. He is the captain, though, right? And it's can you keep the captain on the bench? So that's kind of my rationale for bringing him out. He's also probably better on the ball as well, which is a big thing for Hutzler. So yeah, I hope he comes back in, but we'll see what happens. If he doesn't, it's really not the end of the world.
Okay, let's get to the big talking point then. Captaincy this week. We did speak a little bit off camera about who Jian might be captaining, and it's probably not who you'd expect. You did allude to it in the introduction of this one as well. But yeah, loads of options, as I've said across multiple videos this week already, as to who you could captain. I don't really think there's a right or... I mean, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this, but I don't really think you can go that wrong with many players this week. There's no real one player that is clearly the obvious one to pick and you'd be silly to go against. So right now, and to time frame this, we're recording this on Wednesday evening. What are you thinking?
So I completely echo your thoughts in the sense that there's a huge pool of players which I think you can justifiably captain this week. So for example, my entire midfield, I think you can make a very strong case for all of them, right? Leicester at home, West Ham away, City at home, and then Villa at home as well, right? Yeah. And considering the type of players. But for me, at the moment, I've got it on Bukayo Saka. So there's a few reasons as to why. There's three players I think are in the top three category, and Mbeumo being the fourth, and then everyone else a bit below. I think it's Palmer, Salah, Saka, right? So thankfully I've got those three, so we can spin out between those three. When it comes to West Ham, I would say they're undoubtedly the worst side out of the three. Okay, so that's the first thing. I pretty much know what I'm going to get in terms of approach. Okay, I'll get a relatively deep block, and I know that Arsenal have the weapons in which to surpass that and make sure they're successful. Right, in Odegaard, Saka, and specifically Timber in what he's been showing recently. Right, the ability to underlap, the ability to overlap, the fact that Saka now has more combinations available to him. He won't be as shackled to the touchline. He can come inside more. The volume of specific output almost orientated actions will increase as such. We've seen how good he's been in the two games since he's come back, and he'll probably be even better than he was against Forest. I really like it from that sense. The only thing with Saka is, do you trust him to access the ceiling in the same way that you do a Palmer or a Salah? And you probably don't, and I think I'm fine to accept that risk, given I think his floor is so high and the conditions really are there for him to do quite well. If I knew City were going to line up with Gundo and Rico in the middle, I'd probably captain him, right? Because I think City could really get hurt on transition there, especially at Anfield, right? Keeping the ball at Anfield is probably the hardest place to keep it, right? just because it's a Cauldron and it's such a difficult atmosphere in which to play in. But I do think he'll play Matthias Nunes in the middle. I think the game will actually be at a much slower tempo if City can have a good start. And then I think Salah's floor gets increasingly lower. And then Palmer, the main reason I'm not going to play him or captain him, I think I have him at 2 personally, is that I think Gusto's going to invert from right back all the way into the right 8 and have a base of Caicedo Lavia, which means Palmer will play left 8. And I don't think he's been quite as good there, as quite as devastating because the angle doesn't suit him as much.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So yeah,
I hadn't thought about that. And
plus, I already have Jackson, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a bigger share of the output.
That's true. Yeah, I'm trying to think of Palmer's games where he has played in that left 8 role. I'm thinking like that Newcastle game where he scored.
Yeah.
But it was quite a fortunate goal. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the other one was United.
Yeah.
Arsenal, I think. Yeah, Arsenal, I think. Yeah. And like even against Leicester, it was slightly different because it was Enzo right centre mid with Caicedo at the base by himself. So he's playing at the top of the diamond, but naturally, given he's left-footed, he'll always naturally be orientated to that left side if he's to play at the top of the diamond. And I want him back at right centre mid. So yeah, that's another reason as to why. And I also think it's more of a Jackson type of game.
Yeah, hadn't thought about it. That's a very good point actually, because yeah, Palmer's not one of those players. I don't think he's one of those players. He was last season when he was sort of given the freedom to go wherever he wanted and pick up pockets and yeah, just really play the game in his own style. But now that the structure is a little bit more strict, there's less sort of scope for him to go where he wants. I don't think he's a sort of player that will always find a way to points necessarily. Maybe that's a little bit of recency bias, and maybe I wouldn't be saying that had he scored that goal, which was blocked on the line. But it's impossible not to think how I would think if that went in. What do you think? I mean, if he had scored that goal, do you think it would just be a much more obvious Palmer captain? I think he would have got probably 10 points, likely to have got 9 or 10 points.
Yeah, he almost would have definitely got like 10, like 9, 10, whatever. The thing is, I think Leicester present like a very different dynamic to Aston Villa. Like Aston Villa have repeatedly shown themselves to be susceptible to forwards who can like really exploit that space in behind and are genuinely quite powerful and strong. So that's why I think he could play, maybe even if he does play that left 8, it's still more of a creative role for Jackson and for the runners. And that's why I think I'm favouring having him as the vice captain, because there's obviously still a lot of positives attached to him, right? Like it's still a good fixture, especially if they're without Anana and Kamara. And we haven't really touched on that. But for me, there's so many positives associated with Saka. Also, he's easily the lowest owned of the 3, which I haven't actually thought about too much, but it's a nice like thing to have attached. Well, in my opinion as well, because I'm not too bothered about the risk in this case. So yeah, that's my justification. Albeit I think it's really close, and I could probably swing back to Palmer. I haven't locked myself on that yet. I think Salah's like him and Palmer probably like neck and neck as well.
Yeah. It is tough. It is tough. I think it's one of those that is going to go down to the deadline, and of course that is Friday this week. So important not to miss that. Saka's at 28.5% ownership. His effective ownership in the last game around my rank was about 23. So as you might imagine, actually lower than his overall ownership. So you're right. I mean, the upside there is massive. It is also away. It is a London derby. I don't know how much you think about that. And then West Ham are coming off the back of a very good result.
That's true.
I mean, it's one of these things, and I do think that like we can analyze this as much as possible. Ultimately, the Premier League can be pretty random. I mean, we've seen a couple of. I mean, who would have predicted West Ham to win 2-0 in Newcastle, and then also Tottenham to win 4-0? Like these sort of games do happen, but then again, you know, if we're not predicting what's going to happen in games, then what's the point?
Yeah, like you said, I think there's so much luck involved, right? Yeah. And like you can't get around that. For example, like the Palmer Salah one, right? Salah didn't really have much in the game, but then he gets given the goal to an extent by Alex McCarthy, and then the penalties is a bit of a joke.
He was definitely given the goal, by the way. I mean, if McCarthy doesn't come out, yeah, maybe he controls it and finishes, but it's tough. He has 2 touches, and that first touch is tough.
Yeah, and then like Palmer gets his shot blocked on the line by his own teammate. So like swings and roundabouts, right? And like a lot of that is just luck, right? It didn't really have anything to come down to the analysis. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar this week, but we need to try and find some form of an edge. And I think Palmer's positioning may be one, especially given it's more suited to Jackson. And then the second bit would be me just trusting City a little bit more to not get thrashed, because if they get thrashed on Sunday, right, it'll be 7 on the bounce that they haven't won, especially after the way they lost to Spurs, the way they collapsed against Feyenoord.
Yeah.
It's looking really bad. And I don't think they're going to go into that with the usual mindset. I think it really will be keep ball to a greater extent and just try and get the crowd out of it for the first 20 minutes. Because if they don't, it could honestly turn into a bit of a rout.
I mean, who knows? If they lose that game, Pep might be sacked. You never know.
He just got a new contract. He ain't going.
He could be sacked. Seven games without a win. I've seen managers sacked for less. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, but you also haven't seen a manager as good as Pep.
No, of course not. Of course, he's completely fine. I think he could probably. I don't know how many games could he lose before he got sacked. I reckon
15,
20 in a row minimum.
Oh, minimum 20. Oh, I think like the pressure would get huge at like 13.
To be sacked though.
Also, it's the Christmas period, so it'll just keep coming, and it'll just add up and add up and add up, because it'll just be loss after loss after
Imagine they
loss.
actually got
everything.
sacked though. But like he said, off the back of the 2-year contract and just what he's done over the last 8 years or whatever, crazy. Anyway,
Do you know what'd be funny though is if they win, they're only 5 points off the top of the league. For all of this, I think they're 5 points off the top of the league.
It's because the games have been across different competitions. It seems much worse than it is, and it is still very bad. But it's only 3 losses in the Prem.
3 losses in the Prem is not even a big deal, and they always lose. They always find a way against Spurs as well. So
Exactly.
it's not even that big of a deal.
Right, recommendations this week. Guys, if you still don't know what is on screen right now, Fantasy Football Hub has an AI. And every week, personalized to your team, it recommends what you should do with your transfers. If you want to take advantage of this and know what the AI is saying for your team, then now is the best time, actually, since the season started, to sign up. There's currently a 30-day free trial because of Black Friday. 30-day free trial. So if you sign up right now and you don't like it, you can cancel within 30 days. So that's how many game weeks across the next 30 days? I mean, I don't know, like 5, 6, maybe more.
Yeah.
Is it 5 or 6 something? So you get
Something
6.
like that, yeah.
If you want, you can have 6 game weeks of pretty much Fantasy Football Hub for free and then cancel it. So link down below. Make sure to sign up. Now for your team, Jian, as you probably would expect, they recommend not making a transfer this game week, which will then allow you to make bigger moves with more impact over the next game weeks. It's kind of what you want to see after a wild card. I mean, sometimes you do get unlucky, or you make a mistake, and then this sort of software will say, actually, you know, probably did make an error there. We recommend to make a transfer, but it must give you a little bit of encouragement in your wild card that you know it's solid enough to not make a transfer this week, even with those flags.
Yeah, for sure. I actually changed my transfer strategy somewhat, or I'm open to a new one. The one move I've had locked in is Mbeumo to Bowen in 14. But even that I'm more open on. Like, I wouldn't mind considering a Semenyo, especially because he's got his suspension out the way. So that's something I'll consider. It will allow me to get Timber, who I spoke about earlier, as an upgrade, who I'm really considering because I think the upside's there. And there are a few other things I was considering. One, just going Isak to Watkins in 14, just for like literally a 2-week punt. Brentford at home, Southampton at home. And the only way that would be facilitated is if I got rid of the idea of getting Haaland back in 18. I spoke about this on my own channel, and for a few reasons, I actually think there is a potential scenario where, regardless of what he does, unless he does freakishly well, right, where he's just putting a hat-trick up every game, even if he scores a brace, I think you could genuinely go without him, because you're not going to captain him every week, and the rest of the forwards are so good this year at such a significantly lower price that I do genuinely think, regardless of what he has, probably just leave him out.
Yeah.
And it allows you to be a lot more aggressive.
I do think that is a difference between now and the start of the season. At the start of the season, we were happy captaining him the vast majority of weeks. Yes, he was doing well, but he was the standout captain anyway. If you look across the next 8 game weeks, he isn't really the standout captain in any week. There's no one week where you say, okay, you need to have him over anyone else. Yes, obviously, you know, he has good fixtures coming up. Even next game week is a good fixture. But yeah, I don't know. I do agree with you. I think that we can go a while without having him. You know, things change in FPL pretty quickly. Yeah, sure. So who knows what might happen in the very near future. But yeah, so you're not going to make a transfer this week unless something crazy happens, and even then. So let's move on to Game Week 14. As you said, right now, what you think? Just go through the next couple of game weeks. Just want to see your long-term plans realistically. So Game Week 14. So
the initial plan was Mbeumo to Bowen in 14, then 15, 16, 17 roll. I've obviously rolled in 13. Arrive in 18 with 5 frees and restructure to get Haaland. That was the initial plan.
Oh, I see.
But now I'm thinking, okay, in 14, Mbeumo's going, right? Whether he goes to Bowen or Semenyo is remains to be seen. Potentially get in Timber at the back. And then from there, just play ultra aggressively, knowing that I'm committing to not getting him in 18, and just target like 1 week fixtures. Just like pop it around. whatever I fancy. I won't really need to put out too many fires because my squad's got a lot of depth, especially if I get Semenyo. I can put more money in the defense and spread it. And yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to play super aggressively, potentially, because that's what I set up my team for, right? Depth, so I didn't have to put out fires. Like, I'll just have Rodgers on the bench basically every week, and if I ever need him, he's a great call up to have.
All right, to round things off, I want to ask you each position, the best player to target, even if you have them in your team, but just like maybe across the Christmas period, if you could pick one player now in each position, who would you go for? So first of all, would you still stick with Sanchez in goal, or would you go elsewhere now?
We're gonna like not do this. I'm gonna take price into account, right?
So of course. You can't. Raya is the best goalkeeper. I think we can probably all agree on that. For sure. We'll take that into account, of course, and also
Sanchez, Verbruggen. I think you can I think one of the two. I think they're quite clear at the top, given the fixture run, in my opinion. I'd probably still stick with Sanchez, but I'd be very happy with Verbruggen.
They're both predicted to do pretty well. To be fair, they're only 2 points behind Raya over the next 4 game weeks. Very solid.
That's really good. That's very good, actually.
Yeah. Defense?
Gabriel, Timber. No one even comes close to them, in my opinion. I'll probably still take Gabriel just because you get a slightly more security of expected minutes, given Timber's somewhat injury prone, and he's more assist orientated, whereas Gabriel's definitely more goal orientated. So I'll go Gabriel with Timber at 2.
What would your Timber route be? Would it be if you did get Semenyo for Mbomo, then upgrading just any of your defenders? Yeah.
Yep.
I love the Timber pick, especially now that we know that White's out for the foreseeable. He could still be rotated, but do you think there's going to be much rotation across Christmas, like with the Tomiyasu or a Kivia or something? I mean, it doesn't seem that likely.
See, the thing is, if you replace him, you're not really just rotating him. You're changing the entire system because now Saka's dynamic is completely different. So is Odegaard's. You probably have to bring Havertz even more into that right side like he did against Sporting. And then you'd have to push Calafiori up probably a little bit more because you don't want Tomiyasu to do that. So so many things would change. So I think he might just play every game, honestly.
Wow. A 5-5 with the attacking threat as well. I mean, we saw him get an assist in the Champions League. Very nearly scored in the league. Well, did score, but just offside. Yeah. Definitely one that I've got my eye on. Midfielders, obviously, apart from the obvious ones. Anyone else that is sort of standing out to you? Midfield is so sort of, I think, kind of set. Is there's not really too much up? Bowen is one that you've said. I'll
go Saka though still because a lot of people don't have him, so I'll put some more emphasis on Bukayo Saka, and because I think he's gonna be such good value. He's only 10-1. Palmer's still 11, right, or 10-9. Salah's obviously nearly 13 or is 13. So for me, Saka at 10-1 is just top value.
Yeah, fair enough. Again, yes.
Actually, can I throw a real spanner in the works? Because I was looking at this transfer. I think Foden 14 could be interesting.
Wow.
If they get it clicking back, those are his type of fixtures.
What do you mean by that?
Against Palace, I want someone in the middle, picking up pockets where Haaland's going to occupy 3 centre backs. That's Foden type of fixture. United, similar system, right? Yeah. So I want Haaland doesn't have the greatest record against Villa, or I think Foden scored a hat-trick against them last year. I think. So for me, those are Foden type of fixtures. I was thinking about that. Also, he's 9-2 as well. It's a lot cheaper than the rest of the premiums. Yeah,
it's true. So many options in midfield, but then even more options, arguably up front. Who would that player be that you just? I don't know. I think you're probably going to say like a João Pedro or someone, but there are so many options.
Yeah. So for that, I think it's so close between João Pedro, Cunha, and Jackson.
Okay.
All offering you slightly different things. For example, Cunha's got brilliant fixture 16 to 17, right? But then again, Ipswich, they're actually quite decent. And Leicester under their new manager, they're not even in the relegation zone, which is actually really impressive.
Yeah.
And they've been okay this season, especially considering the club aren't happy. So yeah, I think them 3. If I had to pick one, I'm still going Jackson. I love owning Jackson. The main thing is I probably have João Pedro neck and neck with him because he's so cheap.
Yeah.
I'm still going Jackson.
Jackson is the one. I would definitely pick Jackson over Cunha. I know that there's a difference in price there, but I agree with you. I also, we already mentioned this, but I'm not sure about Cunha. I'm not sure Wolves are going to suddenly start scoring 4 goals a game, or even a couple of goals a game. Bournemouth at home is all right. It's not great. Everton away, West Ham away, in my opinion, are tough fixtures. We'll see with West Ham. Everton away is a tough fixture for an attacking team. Exactly. Yeah.
I think the one thing with Cunha is no one's really expecting Wolves to have this huge upturn in terms of their chance creation, and I actually think their chance creation dynamics are pretty poor. But the one thing with him is he's just so good at football.
Yeah.
Like even the goals he scored so far, right? Brings it down against Fulham, beautiful finish. Brilliant like goal from outside the box against Southampton and Fulham. Like it's not like Wolves are really doing much for him. He's just so good that he's just doing it himself. And like that is people say it's unsustainable. When you're that good, like you kind of can keep going. That's the only thing that like scares me. It's just him himself.
Sorry. That's the debate. Let's round things off with this actually. Yeah, just where you stand on sort of XG versus eye test and just watching someone like him be so good. Obviously, you know, he like, well, I don't know if it's obvious or not. I mean, I would argue that he's unlikely to maintain that sort of finishing. But as you said, he's a very, very good player. I actually watched one of your videos and you said Cunha is very, very good at football. And I was like, sometimes it is as simple as that. Like when a player is in good form and is that good, scoring outrageous goals, but also like, yeah, some of his passes are excellent. He's obviously a very good creator, the minutes, etc. Do we overstate sometimes the stats when this player is just playing really well?
Yeah, he's like a perfect conundrum for it, right? Because like, in my opinion, Wolves are the fourth worst team in the Premier League. That's just my opinion. I think the fourth worst team in the Premier League.
Okay.
He, however, is good enough for a Champions League club, in my opinion. Right, like he would walk into that Man United side. Not that they're a Champions League club, but he would walk into their side, top 6 club, right? He'd walk into pretty much most sides. So, like, you have to factor that in. And when you talk about XG, the one thing I always find with XG and statistics is they're all standardized across like a really wide variety of players, right? Like, for example, you'll take the XG of a specific shot that Messi has, and then someone else has, and like you'll quote it as the same, but it's not them. Like Messi scoring from that probability is much higher. So I take it less into account the better the player is, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised if he keeps going. I just don't think he can continue to go at this rate when the fixtures aren't that easy. Yeah.
It's one of those, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he does well against Bournemouth. But then if he doesn't, I also wouldn't be surprised. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a good fixture this week. Bournemouth at home.
Yeah, I actually like the fixture a lot this week because Bournemouth, like in the middle, with the way they press, there's always a space in the middle.
Yeah.
So him and Strand Larsen, I quite like that combo this week. But like, I'm not just gonna bring him in for this week when I have a good forward line and like Everton away after. So yeah, I'm kind of just hoping Bournemouth get the job done because they are a better team. And then they can just somehow keep him quiet. They've got like a top centre back in Zabani, so hopefully he can do the job.
I mean, is the reason you were so bullish on João Pedro against Bournemouth?
You true.
You said earlier in the video.
Yeah, now I have to face the reverse, but hopefully they get it done for me.
But there we go. That's going to do it. Thank you very much, Jian, as always, for coming on, guys. If you want more of Jian, then check out his YouTube channel. It's doing really well, to be fair, mate. Congratulations. Like the views are great, content's great. I'm enjoying it. You're building a good little audience over there. How many subscribers are you on now? A few thousand?
We're on 4,700, so not too far away from 5K.
Can we help Jian get to 5K? If you're still watching right now, go over and subscribe because Jian's not on these videos every single week. It's impossible to get everyone on the video every single week. So if you want to follow his team, throughout the season, every single week, and the multiple videos that you put out every week, link down below. Go and subscribe to Jian. Also, make sure to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub. As I said, it's a 30-day free trial right now up until the end of this week. So you don't want to miss out on that. Thank you, mate, as always, for the tips and advice. And
my pleasure. It's always great to be back on.
Oh, there we go. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Good luck this game week. Let's hope for some more green arrows. I'll race you to top 100k, Jian. How about that?
Yeah. I think I might win. You want to put a bet on it?
All right. What should we do? Little wager.
Yeah. I mean, like, what are we going to wager? We can wager some money if you want.
How about we
something a bit more?
How about we give away the person that loses gives away a Fantasy Football Hub year subscription.
Okay. Yeah, fine. So basically so I don't get anything for winning. All right, cool.
Yeah. No, we don't need to get anything for winning.
Okay, cool. Yeah, fine. You're on. You're done.
All right, let's do that. Okay, there we go. That is going to do it for this one, guys. Good luck.